Thanks everybody for joining here. So I'm Scott, the Canadian Fisherman, and part of our, Meet the Outfitter series where we attempt to introduce people to the different lodges and resorts and outfitters across Ontario so you can learn about what your next vacation might look like from the comfort of your own home. We do them here live on Facebook so that you can ask us any questions, and you do that by typing your question or your comment just in the comments like you would normally on Facebook. I'll monitor those here from a separate screen and I'll pass them on to Johnny. Now, if you're not live and you're watching us on a recording, thanks very much for giving us your time. You could be on YouTube, you could be on Facebook, but worry not, at the end of the session, we're gonna have all the contact information for Tomiko Lake Lodge available for you. You can learn more with their website. You'll be able to reach out and speak to Johnny by telephone, or if you wanna shoot them an email, that information is gonna be available to you as well. So Johnny, are you okay if we get started?
Absolutely. Welcome, everybody, and thanks for having me tonight, Scott.
All right. So listen, Johnny, listen, thrilled there. I always like to share with people in advance if I have or have not been somewhere. So yes, I have been to Tomiko Lake Lodge on several occasions. But Johnny, why don't you give us the big picture and tell us about the executive summary for Tomiko Lake Lodge?
Well, it's an old lodge. It was started back in the 1920s. Back then, it was really, an outfitter scenario. There was no roads. You had to come in through another lake by boat and whatnot, or fly in, I guess. And then by the 50s, there was a road access to it, but it was really more of a trail. And that ran, again, still primarily as a hunting and fishing camp. And in the mid-90s, my wife, Lisa, purchased the property. And at the time, it was pretty much shut down. The gentleman who ran it for the previous 50 years was in his 80s and pooped out. So she took it over and completely restored the property and all the old cabins and got rid of stuff they had to get rid of. And she'd been running it on her own for the last 25-ish years. And I came onto the scene about 5 or 6 years ago, and we're now going through another phase where I'm completely renovating all the cabins and cottages and working on the property and whatnot. And here we are. We're more of a family. We do fishermen and hunters, of course, but in the summertime, we're now more of a family type resort than an outfitter scenario. So
great. It's good to hear, that, people are wondering about the business, and you're busy up there making investments in the business to improve the accommodations for your guests. So that's great to hear.
Always. Every cabin gets something every year.
Cool. So why don't you take us to the location? We've got 2 slides here to help people understand where you are in relation to the province of Ontario.
Okay, so I think a lot of people have heard of North Bay, certainly Sudbury. Probably 80% of our guests come from Southern Ontario, so it's your standard hike up to 400, up to North Bay, and so 400 and then the 11. And when you hit North Bay, you head towards Sturgeon Falls. So you're heading west towards Sudbury for about 30 kilometers. That'll hit you Sturgeon Falls, and then we're just another 15 kilometers north on the highway north of Sturgeon Falls, and then into the dirt road, which is 20 kilometers of back roads. So once you're out here, you're out here. You're really, it's like fly in without having to fly in.
Yeah. So, having been there before, what's nice is the bulk of the roads up there are in great condition. And if you do want to, supply or resupply, Sturgeon Falls really has everything that you're going to need to, as far as groceries and fuel and everything you might need.
Oh yeah, it's, we live up here year round, and we don't have to go outside of Sturgeon Falls for anything. And it's really 20 to 30 minutes, depending on what kind of a hot rod you are. The roads are amazing. They're grading them a couple times a week. No, it's fantastic, and you're in and out of there. Or you can actually get to the highway and hang a right instead of a left, and there's a nice old-fashioned general store in a little town called Field that's got the LCBO license. You can get beer and booze and kind of avoid the sturgeon thing. So again, 20 to 30 minutes. Yeah, you don't have to bring everything in and worry about all that all week while you're here.
Yeah, so it's great. So for people that are making the drive, if you're coming from Southwestern Ontario, you depending on where you're coming from, 5.5 hours is probably, your drive, I would say. Would that be fair to comment on?
Yeah, Toronto would be 4, so if you're getting south of Toronto, yeah, 5.5. Hamilton, 5.5.
Cool.
A lot of people, they'll pack a lot of stuff. The key thing is you get to sturgeon and you can load up on the more sensitive groceries, won't last a 4-hour drive. You can throw that in your cooler and sturgeon and not worry about it, right? So
Awesome. So listen, why don't you tell us a little bit about the lake? So I've got a picture here that shows a lake map, but if people are wondering, what's Tomiko Lake like as far as your guests can enjoy?
Well, it's got a little everything. It's size of a lake is relative, I guess. We call it a medium-sized lake. It's not a Lake Ontario, and it's not a pond either. I don't know what the actual acreage is. That means nothing to me. But anytime Scott, you come out here and you go fishing, and you feel like you're the only person on the lake. And I think that's the key here. There's plenty of different types of habitat, from deep water to reedy areas. There's quite a number of creeks feeding it. The Tomiko River actually comes into the lake and then exits the lake, so it's almost like a river coming in and a river going out. It's not too many rocky areas to worry about if you haven't fished the lake before. Our water property front right here is beautiful. Walk out 150 feet of nice sand and you're up to your mid-drift, so it's wonderful for kids to play in the summer. And
yeah, so having been there, it's clear water, and you're right, Johnny. If for the fishing people, there's lots of space to go if you're looking to work islands or shoals, etc. But if you are a family, if you're going to go out for a boat ride, or if you're bringing your own boat and you're tubing, there's really lots of space for everybody, and you don't have to worry about falling over each other.
Absolutely, and there's areas that have big sand banks, so you can go there and spend the beach day and climb the sandbanks or jump off cliffs if you're into that. Or, it's a great lake just to tour. There's not many cottages on it. Really, if you're the map you got on the screen right now, if you look at the very bottom left where there's the legend for the distance, yep. From there over to the right is one shore is really pretty much the only cottages on the lake. So the whole from the left and the right, I don't know where north is. Yeah, it's kind of funny. So the west and east and north all is ministry land, right?
Nice. So it's a great lake, and you're right, it's surprisingly deep in spots in the middle of it. So let's pretend
here. 80 foot. Sure.
Yeah, let's pretend here, because I think it's always interesting about, people make this drive, whether it's long or not. They make the drive and then you get to the camp. Why don't you walk us through what happens once you come in and you park your car?
Okay, so that's interesting you say that. If you're looking at the photo there, you'll notice the absence of vehicles. That's not because this photo was taken when there's nobody there. In fact, I can see a person walking on the property there. Yeah. We, a number of years ago, decided to ban the vehicles from the living space of the property, and we keep them in the back property. So what happens is you arrive, I greet you in the furthest point you can drive with my trailer, and I load you up with all your goods onto my trailer and bring you to your cabin and answer any questions that you have, and get you all settled in. In the old days, families would show up after being in the car for 6 hours. The kids, are we there yet? Are we there yet? As soon as they get to, they're running around. All these cars are backing up, boats all over the property. We're worried for someone getting injured. Now they get there, and if you notice our logo, our slogan is breathe. Now they get there, they leave the car behind them, the car payments behind them, their regular life behind them, and they walk out into this parkland and breathe. We're here, we made it, right? And so it's a full vacation from the moment you get here.
Beautiful, and it's a nice feeling, to park the car and just have your, your belongings, essentially delivered right to the front door of your cabin. It's a nice experience.
It's quite efficient too, I think. Instead of getting in and out of your car unloading, and I throw it on the porch for you, and you're good.
Awesome. So, the cabins there, and we can see them, from the aerial shot here. But maybe quickly, in topics, you have 3 styles of cabins, and I think we'll take a look at each style here. Does that work for you?
Yeah, sure. I think because there's little differences. They're all wonderful. They're all rustic, but they're a little bit different. So these three here, we call those the cottages. Cottage 1, 2, and 3. They're traditional framed cottages, well insulated. Not that you need that in the summer, but if you're coming in the early spring or late fall, it's nice to have. All our cabins, by the way, do have heat. The front rooms that you see here are basically like sunrooms. The living room has got quite a nice view, so they're good in the spring for escaping black flies or that kind of thing. Each of those are pretty much the same layout, 2-bedroom cottages, all modern. All our cottages have full bathrooms and full kitchens. Here you see a kitchen, fridge, stove, microwave, all the pots and pans, coffee maker, toaster, utensils to cook with, utensils to eat with.
Right.
So all our cottages have cabins.
And I think it's hopefully it's obvious to people, but full electricity, so you have power 24/7. So we're not worried about generators here.
No, we're on the grid. You don't hear the generator running in the background. There's no limitation there.
Okay, so you've got three of this style of cabins, and generally speaking, I know there's probably not a hard and fast rule, but what size group or family would normally take up one of these?
Well, they're 2 bedrooms. Each one has got slightly different bed configuration, but if it's a family scenario, you're talking about a couple, a family with 2, 3 children, plus the mom and dad type of thing. Or we often get 2 couples, or maybe a couple who have 1 or 2 children and they bring a grandparent or grandparents type of thing.
Right.
4 or 5 people.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's switch. Then you've got another group of cabins, that are more log construction here.
Yeah, so these are really old. They're 90-something-year-old. These are original cabins. They've been restored, like I mentioned, when Lisa took over in the 90s. And then recently we've been restoring or renovating, I guess, rather than the word restore, renovating them. So they've all been reconfigured inside with new flooring, new walls, new plumbing, new everything, better layouts. Lisa's learned. So there you go, right? They've all got the vaulted ceiling, the original. You can see the log walls on the inside, but full bathrooms, heated, full kitchens.
Awesome.
And this one has a couple bedrooms. The other one, there's another one next to it, has 1 bedroom.
Right, and I know that these cabins, so the first group of cabins we looked at, the cottages, have the nice kind of inside screened area, but then these have the nice decks on the outside. So different features depending on what your guests are looking for.
Exactly, right. So different guests, have different choice and different time of year as well, right? So
awesome. And now, so that takes us through the bulk, but then you've got this one it's really not even a cottage. This one's a home, correct?
Yeah, it's a proper log home. We call it Big 5. It's cottage cabin number 5, but it's big. It's got a loft, a couple bedrooms. It's just grander, and it's a log home.
And
This is obviously better.
I know this one's got a lot of space on the main floor, and also that loft space, above it as well.
Right. I think you got a shot of there in the presentation somewhere. The loft, we can really put a lot of beds up there too. So we'll get like a fishing group, and we can put a few beds up there, and we always reconfigure beds. Lisa always says to me, "I promise you, honey, this is the last time you're going to have to move a bed." I just chuckle, right? Because we're shuffling around, trying to accommodate everybody and make everybody as comfortable as possible.
Awesome. So you got a bunch of different cabins, lots of different options there. So that sounds great. And what I like about it is every one of them has this type of view.
Oh yeah, they're all, you saw from that original, the first shot you had there, your drone shot, you can appreciate that they are all basically right there on the lake. So they've all got this view for sure. So that's an older shot, but yeah.
And there's an area I know where people go swimming, where it's a nice access point there, and I know that people can go and they fish off the dock and they boat off the dock. It's a really nice, spacious area there in front of the cabins.
It's a really interesting place here. We've got different seasons. In the spring, we get a lot of anglers, groups and retired couples fishing, and it's nice. I go out my window in the morning and I see, a 75-year-old guy hanging out with a group of 32-year-old guys swapping fish stories before they leave at 5:30 in the morning. And I look out that same window in July, and there's 15 kids running around on the dock, fishing off the dock or jumping in. And, it's just a real family-oriented thing in the summer. And fall, you get back to a little mix of bird hunters and fishermen again, and a little something for everybody every season.
Awesome. So let's by the way, folks, if you do have any questions or comments for Johnny, type them into the comment section. And if you're not posting comments, we'll just assume that we are just so effective at answering everything that you're wondering. But so 2 questions for boats. Obviously, can we rent boats there, or are you allowed to bring your own boat? I'll leave it to you now.
You have both options. This is one of our boats. That's an old motor, but we have a newer motor on it now. So we have 3 aluminum boats such as this, one a 12-footer and 2 14-footers with the 8 horsepower 4-stroke motors that you can rent for the day or for the week. And we provide the necessities, the gas tank, the gas, the paddles and safety kits and whatnot. Preferably you can bring your own life jackets, especially for children, but we do have some if you've forgotten it or don't want to run out and buy a life jacket for a one-time thing. Mm-hmm. And we also have a pontoon boat, 16-foot, rigged up, a bass boat. So it's got a couple bass seats in the front, a live well, fish finder, 20-horse, 4-stroke, bimini cover on it. That, again, is rentable for the day or for a week. And you can bring your own.
Awesome.
So in the spring, we guys bring their boats, and in the summer, less so, because more families, and they tend to rent more in the summer.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about fishing. And there's really the 2 main species, which, and one of them is the smallmouth bass, and one of them is the walleye or the pickerel. But maybe why don't you comment on the bass fishing that's available up there, and then we'll switch over.
Oh, bass is crazy. You just drop your hook. You don't even have to put bait on. They're jumping out of the water. I don't know if we'll talk about it later, but we were featured on Fish TV last summer, and Jeff and those guys, they couldn't believe it. They never seen anything like it. The smallmouth they're crazy. They're jumping all over the place. They're a lot of fun. Any time of year, you can get those. Well, in season, of course.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've always found interesting about the bass, so number one is what I would call surprisingly large average size fish. So a lot of really big bass, but also really dark skin. Like, so they're not the greeny, color pattern. It's a dark brown to almost a black, which I think speaks to the structure of the lake, which is less weedy and more rock and sand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, and it's a really clear lake, and I think that has something to do with it as well. Well, that's a beautiful fish and a wonderful little girl.
Yeah, yeah. So I know that little girl. She's
The
upstairs right
bath.
now.
Oh, say hi.
But
I think speaking of the size of the fish, I think you'll also notice a lot of them have holes in their lips. People up here are really proud to. We do a lot of catch and release, and a lot of respect for limits and slot sizes on the pickerel and everything, and fun fishing is the result, right? Healthy lake.
yeah, it's great. So, and we will. I think we got a shot of the team from Fish TV coming up. But the smallmouth fishing is really great. And then there's also a lot of walleye that can get caught there. So maybe you can touch on that.
Yeah, oh, there's lots. In fact, my our niece yesterday morning walked out on the dock and threw her line in a cast and pulled out a 5.5 pound pickerel. Her first fish, couldn't believe it. Released it, of course, but lots of pickerel. It's hard, it's a Northern Ontario lake, so they're tricky, but there's lots. There's a
Yeah,
slot size and a limit of 4. But if you're coming for walleye and you're an average fisherman, you shouldn't be disappointed.
good stuff. And I did
Really
send my congratulations to your niece. If her first fish is a 5.5 pound walleye, that's a pretty good way to start your angling career.
Exactly. That's the expectations, though, right?
Yeah, yeah. Just up from there. So here's the shot of the guys from Fish TV. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that experience, having a really popular fishing TV show based out of your operations?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. First of all, these guys are legit. They're as fun as they seem to be when you watch them on TV. I had a great time hosting them. Lisa had to take off that few couple of days while they were here, but they stayed in the house with me and fished, and we sat down and had dinner and shared fish stories, and they're awesome guys. And they call this shot here as their triple header. They caught these 3 fish. They were all fishing and they caught them all at the same time. That's where they have them. They're catch and release guys, and they managed to get this picture of these 3 fish that they caught all at the same time in the same spot. So yeah, like you said, it's not all weedy, it's not all whatever. There's fish in our lake.
For sure. And so, you'd mentioned that, the seasons, if you're families, that's great. You can have a lot of as a family, but, if you're an angler, fishing shows like this don't come to places where you can't catch fish. So that's got to be a testament for the quality of your fishing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they do their homework before they go and do a show, right? They're not just saying, that looks interesting on the website. Let's check it out, try it. There's quite an investment in time and money for them to put a show together. So yeah, they do their homework and they asked around. They weren't disappointed. And the interesting thing is they filmed this in early August, which really you would know, Scott, as an angler, you would expect that wouldn't be the peak time to be catching that kind of fish. Normally, you do catch them, and here they are, dumbfounded at how much fish there are.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Now, you didn't just have Fish TV up, you had another group up. So maybe you can take us through or tell us a little bit who Amanda Mayhew is and what her visit to your place is about.
Yeah, well, Amanda's been here several times. Amanda Mayhew has a show called Just Hunt. I think it's on Wild TV or something like that. But in this particular case, what she ran a couple of weekends called Take Me Hunting. So she had these women, as you see in the shot here, they've all received their hunting licenses and everything in their training, but they've never actually been hunting. So they signed up with Amanda, they came, they all stayed in Big Five, and they spent 3 or 4 days with Amanda learning the ins and outs of hunting. So, you know, up early, out walking the trails, 10 kilometers a day, shooting partridge and doing all that. And Amanda made an episode of her television show around that. And she's been back other times since. But yeah,
That's
it was
awesome.
wonderful. Amanda and her girls every time.
So, you know, we've taken a look so far at we've seen the cabins and we've kind of seen the grounds at the front. We've seen the lake area, but, there's another area, what I would call the back half of the property. But why don't you tell us about, a couple other spots that you have available for your guests?
Okay, well, just not to throw anybody off for a loop here. It says Sugar Shack and you see snow on the ground, but we're actually closed in the winter. So instead, this is what I'm doing in the winter, and that's cooking on that wood stove, making maple syrup, which I do sell to our guests here in the summertime. My maple syrup, my barbecue sauce made with maple syrup. But that Sugar Shack back there is actually right next to what we call our picnic area. I think you have a shot of the picnic area in the summer, Scott.
Yep.
Where we have some picnic tables and gas barbecue, and I have a pizza oven back there where we, at least once a week, we're having pizza parties with all the guests. And what happens, especially in the summer, and you know that, Scott, we'll get guests that they'll rent 2, 3 cottages or even all of the cottages as your group. And so they'll hire me and we'll party together in the back, and I'll make couple dozen pizzas for them and get away from the lake and get in some shade back there and have a campfire and play some music maybe. And yeah, it's a wonderful little spot. And we're expanding on that spot all.
Yeah, it's nice. It's almost like you're in a whole new area and you're really only, a few 100 yards away from your cabin.
Yeah. Yeah, a little change of scenery.
Awesome. So let me find here. Oh, yeah, I do it. Here's a shot of the pizza oven getting heated up here. All right. So listen, Johnny, as we put this final slide up here on the screen, is there anything that you think we didn't, share that you'd like to let the people know that are thinking about coming up to Tomiko Lake Lodge?
Well, we're friendly and welcoming, and we love our guests. That's what we're here. We're here to share what we have. So
awesome.
The more the merrier.
So we're going to get this question for most, and so one is, best way. Are you still taking bookings, and what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, I think you got the right contact info there. So you phone. We don't answer the phone right away. At least it'll get back to you anytime, day or night, practically. And the emails, that works good. Most of the information that you're looking for is there very simply on our website. It's a very uncluttered website. It's just the facts. There's no hype there. It has all the information about each cottage, pricing, and whatnot. Pretty much anything you want to know. But we love to hear from you. We actually had this year a couple of gentlemen independently write us old-fashioned letters.
Nice.
Right? Handwritten, not typed, handwritten. I'm thinking of coming to your lodge this summer. Can you send me back a letter with some more information? And yeah, that was really special.
That's
so yeah,
great.
any way you can get a hold.
All right, so folks, this, if you're thinking about your vacation spot, whether or not it's for this year or a year in the future, whether or not you're a family, whether or not you're an angler, maybe you just like, particularly in the fall, enjoying the outdoors. It's a great place, and so I'd encourage you to give Tomiko Lake Lodge a consideration. And don't forget that if you want to take a look at the other videos that we have done, you can find them on my YouTube channel. So youtube.com, the Canadian Fisherman. Check those out. So Johnny, thanks so much for sharing with us tonight and putting the time into communicating with the group about what your lodge has to offer.
Well, thanks for having me, Scott.